Bill Cullen was a former game show host, perhaps best known for hosting the original iteration of The Price is Right. Tragically, Bill suffered from numerous symptoms over the course of his life that made it so he was physically unable to resume his hosting duties when the program was revived in the 70s. This is when Bob Barker replaced him. Join Facts First as we explore how original host Bill Cullen quit The Price is Right after this happened. Bill Cullen was never physically well. Bill Cullen was born February 18, 1920 in Pittsburgh. The future game show host was an only child and proved rather sickly from a young age. At 18 months, he had a bout of polio that went on to scar him both mentally and physically for the rest of his life. Despite surviving, the future celebrity grew up to have some seriously debilitating physical limitations as a result of this battle. He also developed terrible eyesight, which resulted in him needing particularly thick lenses. Bill kept these lenses into his adulthood, and they became one of his signature attributes as a celebrity. Things got even worse for Cullen when he got into a bad car accident at age 17. This meant he underwent a period of hospitalization that lasted nearly a year. As with his bout with polio, his car accident had lasting effects. Bill Cullen wasn't going to let his worsening physical limitations stop him from starting a career in the entertainment industry. While some people dream of being big-name Hollywood stars, it seems what Bill always wanted to do was become a sportscaster. He developed quite a reputation for himself in the world of sportscasting thanks to his unique sense of humor. He could often be heard pulling pranks on his fellow sportscasters. He would carry over this rambunctious spirit into his game show hosting days, which were just around the corner. How Bill got into game shows. Bill ventured to New York City and began working in radio there. It was in New York that he worked on the game show circuit. His first hosting gig came via the game show Winner Takes All. Producers Mark Goodson and Bill Todman were no strangers to the game show format, and they were also the ones who went on to produce The Price is Right. Bill Cullen's work on Winner Takes All was the start of a working relationship with the two. Not only saw him host the first iteration of The Price is Right, but also several other game shows as well. Winner Takes All premiered on CBS in 1952. Several years later, he began hosting a competing show on the NBC channel called Place the Face. It revolved around the concept of celebrities being forced to identify people from their past that they were no longer well acquainted with. Bill Cullen performed hosting duties for a year. When that ended in 1955, it was only another year before he was given his iconic gig as the host of The Price is Right. This first iteration of the beloved game show premiered on CBS in 1956. Mark Goodson and Bill Todman produced it. The Price is Right proved a huge hit for all parties involved, with Bill Cullen hosting the daytime and syndicated versions of the show for nearly a decade. This video is brought to you by Vite Ramen. Vite Ramen is a small business crafting high-protein ramen in small batches here in the U.S. In just a few minutes, you have a super meal that's high-protein, healthy, and chock full of more macro and micronutrients than you can name off the top of your head. Vite Ramen is a full meal, not the tiny packets that leave you hungry after an hour. It keeps you full for hours because of its nutritional density, high protein, and high fiber. Their broths are made with real ingredients. Miso has real Japanese miso as the first ingredient, and so on. Vite Ramen is a lifesaver for keeping healthy when tired and or lacking time to cook. It's easy to make and only takes 3 minutes. Our favorite flavor is chicken. We love how quickly this meal comes together and can't get over how great it tastes. Click on the link below to get a bundle that gives you $25 in value of free gifts and free shipping in the contiguous US. And don't forget to use my code FACTSFIRST at checkout for an additional 10% off. That's viteramen.com/factsfirst, or just click the link below and use the code FACTSFIRST. Bill was too weak for The Price is Right's reboot. The version of The Price is Right that Bill Cullen hosted isn't the same version of the show audiences grew to love and know later on. However, it wasn't all that much different. The first iteration lasted from 1956 to 65, and he hosted the whole time. But by 1965, it seemed the game show's concept had run its course. People were no longer as interested in The Price is Right as they had been previously, and interest in the concept didn't renew until after its revival in 1972. Many of the differences between the original and the new one include the fact that the original iteration sometimes incorporated gag prizes into the proceedings. Bill Cullen seriously considered returning to the 1972 revamping of the show, but there were numerous reasons that he inevitably didn't return. The primary reason was his worsening physical condition. Decades on, Bill was still feeling the effects of both his childhood battle with polio and the car accident that had seen him hospitalized for nearly a year. For the new version of The Price is Right, the producers wanted a snappier format that would help attract modern audiences. With Bill's physical limitations, it was believed the host wouldn't be able to keep up with the new format. Bill agreed, and the hosting gig ended up going to an up-and-comer named Bob Barker. Bill's work in the game show circuit continued. Although Bill was deemed not the right fit for The Price is Right's reboot, that didn't mean the legendary celebrity's years of hosting game shows ended there. Bill's decidedly old-fashioned talents as a host continued to be utilized on a variety of other shows, leading to his death in 1990. He continued to host shows like Password, Match Game, and Pyramid. In the 1980s, he could be found hosting a revamped version of Password called Password Plus. Though he wasn't the official host of the program, he was brought on to guest host for several weeks after host Alan Ludden retired due to stomach cancer. In 1982, he made his first and only appearance on the revamped The Price is Right. He was given the chance to grace the screen alongside Bob Barker in an effort to promote a new game show that the former figure would host. That was called Child's Play, which was a game show where adult contestants were forced to try to guess words after being offered nonsensical definitions by children. Child's Play ran from 1982 to 83 on CBS, and one of its producers was Mark Goodson. In 1984, Bill started up a 2-year gig working as the replacement host for the program The Joker's Wild after its previous host passed away. That was Jack Barry, who had created the program. When all was said and done, Bill Cullen hosted over 20 different game shows over the course of his career. Other shows that featured him as a host include I Guess, Chain Reaction, Blockbusters, and Hot Potato. Bill's personal life and final years. Despite the fact that Bill suffered the effects of numerous childhood traumas, it ended up being smoking that killed the legendary game show host. He was a lifelong smoker and ended up passing away from lung cancer in 1990. At the time of his death, Bill was 70 years old. He'd been married 3 times over the course of his life, and his final marriage lasted until his death, but he never had any kids. During his fame, Bill married second wife Carol Ames, whom audiences may recognize from her singing career. They were married from 1949 to 55. In 1955, he married his third and final wife, Ann McComber. Ann was a model and dancer and made numerous appearances alongside her husband while he was hosting the game show Tattletales. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite memory of Bill Cullen? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Facts First if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.